listen, I've killed him all year, so I give him credit for one day. Josh Naylor at a home run against the lefty.
He can hit lefties.
He can.
There you go.
One day.
There you go.
By the way, I believe in the game where the Guardians scored 12 runs, Miles Straw, I think, went 0 for 5.
Hey,
didn't he?
And Tito gave, I like when he calls people, Gabby, Gabby,
nicknames, right?
Gabby, he hit a home run. It's good to see that. Listen, it's nice to see some runs for
They hit, 3 home runs in the game, right?
Yeah.
Arias, Naylor, and who hit the third home run?
Bell.
Oh, and Bell. Yeah, right.
Easy to forget him.
Yeah, he's forgettable, right? Unless you talk about Albert. No, I mean, it's refreshing to, especially in Camden Yards. Now, I used to love Camden Yards when it came out.
When I went there, I wasn't overly impressed.
Really?
Oh, I love it.
I thought it was fine, but I didn't think it was as amazing as people said. My favorite park of the new parks that I've been to, I haven't been to them all, is PNC. I think PNC is
Nuggets.
Actually, I haven't been to
Mink
that
Nuggets, where are the top 5s at? We got to have top 5 ballparks.
I think we did that.
Fan experience.
Well, you got to take out the old parks.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny about Camden? We did a few years ago. We did a vacation just up and down the Eastern Seaboard. We went to a bunch of different cities, and we stopped in Baltimore. And I took my son to a game. We went early for batting practice. And we sat in right field, and I kid you not, as soon as I sat down, I wasn't down 3 seconds. And the ball landed in the seat next. Like I could have died. It would have hit me right in the head. Hit right in the seat next to me.
Did you go to the Nationals Park too?
No,
or just Baltimore. The Nationals Park is nothing.
Yeah, I've never heard.
Phillies new ballpark is nothing.
Why would you get like? It's almost like the 49ers new stadium. Like, why would you get a nondescript stadium?
It is weird these days.
And back then, I used to always love the fact that every single stadium that looked like the Major League Baseball had their own specific thing. Like when you go to the water fountains in Kauffman Stadium, or Big Monster. I always love that. It seems like some of the parks now are just generic.
HOK was the architecture firm that did Camden and did Jacobs Field. Mm-hmm. It was Jacobs Field back then.
Yeah.
Phenomenal job.
I love those.
Phenomenal.
By the way,
I have them build all of them.
In a game where the Guardians had a rare 17 hits and 12 runs, including 3 homers, and they had 5, 7, 8 extra base hits in this game. Miles Straw 0 for 4 with a walk.
Well, good. You didn't even notice it, did you?
You did.
Because of all the runs that they scored.
Unfortunately, the Guardians only score like that once a month. All right, let's bring in Wayne Randazzo. Wayne, of course, I don't know why I assume. Wayne, for whatever reason, not because you were doing Mets games. I don't know why I thought you were from New York. You're not. You're from Chicago originally, right?
Yes, yeah. People, you're not the only one who makes that assumption. If people do think I'm from New York because of my connection to the Mets, but I am originally from Chicago. I was surprised, too, that somebody from Chicago got a New York broadcasting job.
Yeah, it's a really slap in the face to us New York guys. I'm very insulted they didn't call me. But, no, in all seriousness, you did a heck of a job because I listened to I'm not a Mets fan, but I do listen to the Mets. Because the Mets traditionally, for those who don't know, from Cleveland, have always had very good broadcast teams. You got to be really good to do games for the Mets. Their TV is probably the best in baseball, certainly top 2 or 3. Their radio is fantastic. It's a long tradition of great broadcasters there. Now you're out with the Angels doing TV there. But anyway, there's a very famous restaurant in Brooklyn where I grew up called Randazzo's. Did you ever go there when you were in New York?
I have been there, yeah, and I'm not related to them, but there's a lot of Randazzo's, believe it or not, especially in New York. My family was originally in New York, and then they moved to Chicago, but it's great. You have good taste.
And you're doing, of course, the Apple TV game, and the Guardians are playing the Twins, Apple TV Friday night. By the way, this is very unheard of for baseball, but you'll, I think, appreciate this, Wayne. My Little League team, we are doing a watch party, an Apple TV watch party. I'm not just saying this because he's on. We're really doing this. An Apple TV watch party for the Guardians and the Twins. Tomorrow night we're practicing. We're having a practice at 7, and then we're watching the game at 8 on Apple TV at my assistant coach's backyard. How about that? A little watch party for
the
Apple
kids
TV.
are probably more familiar with Apple TV than the adults.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yes. The adults,
They'll show you guys how to use it.
Exactly. So it's a big series. I know it's early in the season. The division's been bad. But I'm looking at this as a big series for the Guardians because I don't think they play the Twins again until August. So this is an opportunity, as bad as they've been, to get ahead of the Twins in this division.
Yeah, with fewer divisional games this year, there's less opportunity to play each other, and when those games do happen, I think they do carry a heightened sense of importance because this is now you have fewer chances to go head to head and gain ground, and the Guardians have some ground to gain. There's a lot of time. I mean, even if this series doesn't go Cleveland's way, they'll still have time to make it up. But I do think there is that heightened sense that these games are kind of early type playoff games. The Angels are in Houston right now, going through the same thing, playing the Astros. Those games matter. It's the divisional baseball, and when you have those fewer games, you have to go head to head and earn it. And this is a chance for the Guardians to do that against the Twins. Minnesota's in first place right now. Hardly a team running away with that division. Nobody really has taken the bull by the horn, so to speak, in the American League Central. So it's something that I think the Guardians have to look forward to and see this as an opportunity to win a series in Minnesota and get a little ground game.
Wayne, we're playing a game with all the guests today. Does Bull look like a pedophile or a plumber?
Plumber, obviously, there's a great Super Mario Brothers connection there, and plumber.
But Wayne doesn't know me, so he doesn't. Like, for all Wayne knows, I have this stupid mustache all the time. Wayne, I've never had. Last week on the show.
Well, I felt like we needed to explain it because it probably caught him off guard when he saw how ridiculous he looked.
So last week on the show, I brought in a picture of me in high school, which is the only time I'd ever had just a mustache. I've had a beard a lot, but here's my high school picture there.
Oh, man.
With that mustache, right? Like, I'm ready to go, party. I look like a party animal in that picture. Not really.
You look like 90% of the New Yorkers I know, so It really is not out of place to me.
Exactly. So today I surprised everybody on the team here by shaving my beard and just showing up with the mustache for the first time probably since that day in high school, 30-something years ago, whatever it was. And so that's why he's making fun of my beard. So you feel free to make fun of my mustache. I don't have a problem with it.
Well, anyway.
If I need some pipes cleaned, I'll let you know.
Wayne, I know you do a lot of the Angels games, and I had to ask, I'm sure you've seen the thing on Twitter that I think is absolutely hysterical. Every Angels game is Mike Trout hit 3 home runs, Shohei Ohtani hit 2 home runs, and the Angels lost 8-5 last night. Is this the year that the Angels finally make the postseason, do you think? And what's going to happen with Shohei this offseason?
Yeah, I wish the Angels were in the National League, because the answer to that question would be yes, they are going to make the playoffs. But in the American League, it's a lot tougher. I mean, you figure that in the AL Central, the division champion's going to get in, and that's it. But in the East and the West, there's multiple teams in those divisions that are playing really well and that certainly look like playoff teams. Tampa Bay with their great start. Baltimore's been very good, kind of under the radar because they lose some of the spotlight to the Yankees, and they lose some of the spotlight to how good the Rays have been. But the Orioles are really good too. And in the American League West, the Texas Rangers have spent a lot of money, and Bruce Bochy's their manager, and they're playing great. And the Astros are consistent and very good every year. So it's tough. The American League's tough, and you can't. The Angels have had some moments where they've been a little sloppy. They've lost some games, either with late leads blown, happened in Cleveland. I mean, the games that they lost to the Guardians were games that I think the Angels look back on, especially that second game in Cleveland that they should have won. They had a 6-2 lead going into the bottom of the 8th inning. Those are the kinds of games you really can't lose in the American League. So it's going to be tough because I do think the Angels have enough talent to get there. They just have to play consistently good. Yesterday was one of those days you kind of talked about where Trout and Ohtani did a lot, and they won. So that's a good thing. If those guys are going to carry them, they need to win those games. So there's a long way to go, obviously, but I think the Angels really have to tighten up how they play defensively and their bullpen so that they can win the games they should win.
Wayne, we started a little tradition. I don't even know who asked the first question, but every time we have a prominent baseball figure on, we talk about, all right, so how much is Shohei Ohtani actually worth? Like
$600 million.
So could we trade you all our prospects today? That's all the Gavin Williams and Bibees and who else? Throw Allen in there, Espino, and all these guys.
Whatever.
Whatever you want. How much would it take for us to get Shohei Ohtani? What does the package look like?
Just for the rest of this season, not even thinking about beyond?
Yeah, right. Just for the rest of the season.
Well, I think it's tough because you're getting. I mean, I think the Max Scherzer Trey Turner trade stands out. You got an ace pitcher and you got a great offensive player in that trade. Although you had an extra, Scherzer was a rental, but Turner you had an extra year, so it's not a great comparison, but it's a good one. And Washington got Josiah Gray, and they got Keibert Ruiz, the top two prospects the Dodgers had at the time, a starting pitcher and an everyday catcher. And, I think that would probably be what you'd expect. I think it would take the top two prospects from a minor league system right now and maybe a couple other guys that are toward the middle of that top 30 list. I think it would still be a pretty good haul, even with Shohei being a free agent at the end of the year, because you're getting two players in one. So I do think there's still a big price to pay if there's a trade to be made. Now, if we're talking about free agency, yeah, I think it's going to start with a 5, and I think there's going to be some hesitance because he's a better pitcher than he is a hitter. He's still a great hitter. He's still a difference-making hitter, but he can also be the ace of a staff. So you have to trust how long is he going to pitch at the rate that he is. A lot of times, generally we don't see pitchers get huge, long free agent contracts. So that will be taken into account. And so will his marketing ability and the uniqueness of who he is. The number is going to start with a 5. I don't know if Cleveland's going to go. You think Cleveland's going to put up that number?
No chance. I mean, we ain't spent $500 million in the last 20 years.
I mean,
right. So it limits who's out there. There's going to be suitors. Certainly, the New York teams will go after him. I don't know if he wants to go to New York. I think I would if I had to guess, I would say the Dodgers and the Angels are the two favorites. And the Padres are interesting because they'll spend the money, but I don't know if he wants. He is obsessed with Darvish. He idolizes Darvish, and I don't know if he wants to go to a place where he has to feel secondary to somebody. And no matter how much more talented he might be, he'll always feel second to Darvish.
For the record, Seattle's my dark horse.
we got to see him at Wrigley
Ohtani.
Field. I want him on the
Both
Cubs.
saying Chicago, I say Seattle. Is there any chance they trade him, or is that cooled now because the Angels are in it?
Well, they're in it, but there's still 2 months almost till the trade deadline. So I don't know. I mean, I think I wouldn't trade him, even if I'm not in it. I wouldn't necessarily trade him because I think that you have to re-sign him if you're the Angels.
Yes.
You can't let him wear another uniform. You can't let him go.
No,
he's too valuable to not only the team on the field, but the team off the field. You should see how many Asian fans the Angels have at every game that they go to. These people are obsessed with Shohei. They want to watch his every move. And you're giving up as much money as they'll take to sign him. You're giving up so many dollars worth of marketing and advertising with Japanese companies and people that are watching all over the world to see Shohei Ohtani. I would never let him wear another uniform if it were up to me.
I agree. The Angels are insane. They should pay him whatever it takes. There shouldn't be a number too high. The guy's the greatest baseball player. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We've obviously never seen anything like it. So I don't know. We'll see if the Angels are able to keep him, but it's fascinating. By the way, speaking of Apple TV, I watched the Ted Lasso finale. Anybody else watch the Ted Lasso finale yesterday?
I'm still in season 2.
No. Oh, you in season 2?
I'm almost there. Don't spoil it.
I won't spoil it. I'll just say that I liked it. I'll just keep it at that. I watched the Ted Lasso finale. Also, 2 other great shows on Apple TV. I don't know if you're, Wayne, you're doing the games, but I don't know if you feel like you have to be committed to watch it. 2 other shows currently that are on that I really am enjoying. One is another comedy called Platonic with Seth Rogen and
Rose Byrne.
Rose Byrne, yes. And the other is Silo, who really I don't think there's anybody famous on that show.
It's a good
that
one.
show is really good. Comes out on Fridays, new episodes, and Platonic comes out same as Ted Lasso on Wednesdays. Yeah. Both good shows. Are you into?
You
those
need
shows?
to add Shrinking to your queue there.
Well, Shrinking's done for the season, but that was great. Yeah. That
Shrinking's
show was
really
awesome.
Good.
And also, what's the one? Oh my God! Where there's a work version of them and a home version of them. I can't remember the name of the show.
I don't know if I know that one.
Oh my God! Severance. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Another great Apple TV show. Check that one out if you haven't seen it. Anyway, getting back to baseball. You talk about we talk about the Angels are still in it. It's crazy right now. Everybody's still in it. except for the A's and the Royals, every other team in baseball, even the White Sox, I believe, is within 6 games of a playoff spot. White Sox might be 7. But basically everybody's still in it because both Central divisions are awful. Outside of Kansas City and Oakland, and again, you're right, we got 2 months, but Oakland's got nobody to trade in like a dump deal because they got no good players, except for Ruiz, but he's young.
Ramon Laureano.
How much he getting for Ramon Laureano?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Laureano has been a shell of his former. I mean, he's
I know, but I'm still a believer in 2020, and he's still an upgrade in Cleveland over what they've got in right field.
All they do is add guys like that that are a tiny bit better.
Okay.
Go get somebody legit.
I agree, but who?
And
you just said nobody's out of
and
it.
Kansas City's got nobody either, except for I got a couple of okay arms in the pen. Right now, there's no real sellers unless like the Cubs and White Sox fall out of it. Those teams have guys to trade, but
yeah, I do think if you're the White Sox, you're 12 games under 500, and you're 7 games out in a horrible division.
Yeah.
So in these next 7 weeks, are you going to stay right where you are? What if you stay right where you are right now? You're 6-7 back, and you're 10 games under 500. You have to decide, I think, at that point that you have a lot of good pieces, and that guys like Lucas Giolito and Lance Lynn and Tim Anderson and whoever else they want to throw in there could all be tradable and could make you a much better version of yourself. If you are 10 games under 500 and you win the AL Central at 82 and 80, how do you feel about your playoff chances going in against the Yankees and the Rays and the Astros and all that? You can't feel that great. I mean, there's still a thought like the Phillies last year saying, well, you're in, you can do whatever, and that's true. But I do think that if you're a team that is on the cusp of either deciding to rebuild or at least retool or going for it, and you're 10 games under 500, I think that the right choice is to retool. So I do think some of these sellers will reveal themselves over the next several weeks, and I do think it will be a clearer picture by the end of July which teams will need to sell. I also think that because of this kind of parity, that you're going to see teams waiting a lot longer, that it will be that final week or final couple of days before things really would pick up in the trade market.
How have you felt about the pitch clock? I think a lot of people talked about it early on. People settled in a little bit. Do you think some pitchers are still struggling with that? Do you think there's any unintended consequences of the pitch clock, and how have you seen that kind of evolved in the way teams are approaching it now?
Yeah, I think for the Guardians, it shouldn't really matter at all. That is the youngest pitching staff in baseball. Quantrill's 28, and he's the oldest guy in the entire pitching roster for the Guardians. I think the older pitchers are still having some issues. We saw Lance Lynn yesterday, and he didn't look right. He was giving up a lot of home runs. He's a guy who relies on throwing a lot of fastballs, and he's got a 6.5 ERA right now. I don't know if that's all because of the pitch timer. Maybe it's because of the pitch timer, and he's 36, and he's had leg problems. I don't know. But, you look around the league, and it seems like the older pitchers are the ones that have been having the harder time adjusting. I think Scherzer is still adjusting 2 months in. So it seems like it's something that's affecting the older pitchers. But I think the league's thought is, well, it's very popular with the fans. It's very popular overall with the players and front offices. So if you're struggling to get adjusted, get over it, figure it out, and be the best you can within the new rules. And this isn't going anywhere.
Wayne, what do you make of a guy like Shane Bieber, Southern California guy? I think probably that's where he'll be next year, is somewhere on the West Coast, but doesn't throw hard anymore. He's down in the 91, 92 range for the most.
Yesterday.
Yeah, for the most part, he's been effective, but his margins are so small, he's been getting hammered. I'm just wondering, what's the view on Shane league-wide, and is that a guy who's still looked at as a top-of-the-rotation ace type of pitcher?
I think that his pedigree shows that he is. I think Shane Bieber has had a really good career. He's just turned 28 yesterday, so he's really still a young pitcher. He's had a lot of success. Out of Laguna Hills High School, I'm sure some teams out there are going to be interested in Bieber. The Angels have not committed much to pitchers, and if Shohei does go somewhere else, well, all of a sudden, whatever money they thought they were going to be putting into Shohei now can go to other people. And I think Shane Bieber would be at the top of that list. I think him and Giolito are somewhat similar. Bieber's had more success than Giolito, but two guys from that area, still pretty young, still have had some really good success at the major league level. And I think that those are guys you should try to wrap your future around in some way. I don't know. I wouldn't be giving Bieber the kind of money that the top of the line Cy Young perennial candidates get, but I think as a number 2 starter, number 3 starter, I think Shane Bieber would fit into a lot of rotations, and if you trust your staff to get the most out of a guy like that, it could really work wherever he ends up.
This Twins rotation has been really good. I mean, Sonny Gray's pitched well, Lopez, Joe Ryan's been awesome, and even Bailey Ober, who I believe the pitching matchup tomorrow night is Bailey Ober and Savali for tomorrow's game. He's coming off the IL. That's been the surprise for the Twins. I think their rotation's been a lot better than at least I expected. I know overall they haven't been great, but their rotations have been really good.
Yeah, I think Sonny Gray felt like he got off to a weird start last year. The lockout seemed to mess him up. He was a big part of the union's representation. And didn't feel ready, and then he got traded, and then there was a lot happening there that he felt like he didn't give it his best season last year. So he really came into this year in good shape and has hit the ground running. If you don't watch the National League East much and you don't pay attention to the Marlins much, you don't realize how good Pablo Lopez is.
Yeah.
And Pablo's really good. And they traded Luis Arias to get Pablo, and there's a reason why they felt like they could make that trade. Pablo's a tremendous pitcher, and I think that he's been a big help to that rotation. Yeah, some of these other younger guys too have stepped in and done a nice job. So the Twins lost their pitching coach in the middle of last season, and they've been able to just continue right on with good pitching and with solid guys, and they're almost similar to the Guardians in the sense that they bring a couple of guys up from AAA and they look like they fit right in too.
Yeah.
We saw Ober, just like we saw Peyton Battenfield have some good starts, or Tanner Bybee for the Guardians. Louis Varland for Minnesota has had some good moments too. So I think those teams believe in their pitching. I think for the Twins, the one thing that they feel like has to make them the favorite is that they have the guys with the best offensive pedigree. You expect that you're going to get more out of Correa. You expect you're going to get more out of Buxton, although who knows with his injury history. But now Royce Lewis is back. Joey Gallo has had some ups and downs this year, but he's had more ups than he's had recently.
Yeah.
So they have to feel like they're in the driver's seat, but it doesn't seem like the Tigers are going away necessarily, although Riley Green got hurt.
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of talent there. And the Guardians, they really figured out the second half of last season how to play together and how to win, and I wouldn't sleep on them either.
Wayne, when we talk about, the history of the game, when I grew up in 94, the heyday, you had the Frank Thomases, the Ken Griffey Juniors, and some of those really big, huge names. You cover a guy in Mike Trout who has been, phenomenal for years. He's been the best player universally known for, I would say, whether almost a decade.
Well, not anymore.
Well,
now it's Ohtani or Judge.
Well, now they got either one or two.
Yeah.
They could have the two best players in the league. How is it that he is the most nameless and faceless star ever? Like, he's in a big market. He's in California. He's a 5'2" guy. He can play the game. He's fast. He's strong. He can hit for power. Why has he not translated on the large mega scene?
And before you answer that, Wayne, I have to add to what G was saying. When the All-Star game was here a couple years ago, I was at the media day, and I've covered a number of NBA media days where you have to arrive 45 minutes early if you want to be within 30 rows of someone like LeBron or, Dwayne back in his heyday. Mike Trout, halfway through the session, I could just walk up and have like a one-on-one with him. I've never seen anything like it. Why?
I think there's a difference between the media and their thoughts on Mike and the fans and theirs, first of all. Second of all, to really answer your question, he hasn't won. He hasn't won anything. He hasn't won one playoff game in his career. Wow. He's been a great regular season player, and he's been in one playoff series. He came into the league in 2011. He's been in one playoff series, and they lost all 3 games.
Wow.
He hasn't won. So that's, at the end of the day, I think from a media standpoint, that's the answer. From a fan standpoint, I think he is a bigger superstar than people give him credit to be, because everywhere we go, the fans are obsessed with seeing Mike Trout. We were just in Chicago, which is where I'm from. All anybody talked to me about was that they want to see Mike. More than I heard that they want to see Shohei. They want to watch. They want to come out and see Trout. And I hear that in many cities that we go to. The fans are all about Mike Trout. And I think that he really does an over-the-top job in reaching out to the fans, reaching out to kids. He takes more pictures with kids, signs more autographs for kids than any superstar I've ever seen in any sport. He's really, really great with fans. I don't think he cares as much about the media and about, giving that much thought. I think he's been better over the last year or so. I think the World Baseball Classic, he kind of took some leadership in Team USA. And anytime he's given interviews this year, I think he's been a little bit more outgoing. It's never been something that's important to him, like being there for the fans or reaching out to kids is. And I think that there's a gulf between what media thinks of Mike Trout and what fans do.
Fair enough.
Wayne, we
Mikey.
got one last one for you here. As you can tell, we like to have a little fun on this show, and as we do with Bull sometimes, we got to bring up some old memories. Bull used to call, I believe it was single A baseball, and he told us about a story of the time he called an inning while on the toilet because of the setup in single A baseball.
Did you ever call games in the New York Penn League?
No, I did the Midwest League and the Southern League.
Okay, because in the Penn League, and the Mets have the Cyclone, or they did. I don't know if the Cyclones are still in the Penn League's gone.
Yeah.
But there was a stadium in Jamestown, New York, one of the oldest stadiums in the country, and there in the press box, right next to the road team radio booth, was a bathroom that you could open up the door and be looking right out on the field. And I was called, as you know, in the minor leagues, you call games by yourself most of the time. There's no partner. And so, yes, I did do an inning from the toilet once. That is true.
So my question, Wayne, not asking if you ever done one from the toilet, because I'm imagining the answer is no. I think Bull's
He
the only
wouldn't
person
admit
to
it.
ever do it.
He's a pro's pro.
No, but I'm saying, what's
I would
your
admit it.
Okay.
craziest broadcasting story, maybe as you were coming up through the ranks?
It's a good question. I've done a lot of games on like roofs of press boxes and in lane and all that. You do a lot of that when you're coming up. Doing a game on your phone because the connection's not working right. I've done that. I think one time now, Joe Davis, who does the Dodgers and does the World Series now, he was in Montgomery, Alabama, doing minor league games, and I was in Mobile. So we were both in the Southern League together, and we had it was 1,000 degrees there in Alabama, and we were in the 15th inning. So the way the booths were constructed was a little sliding drive-through window between us. And so I opened it up and I asked Joe if he wanted some slushies. They were starting to give away slushies down in the concession. So he said, yeah, why not? Nobody's listening to us at that point. And so Joe was doing his broadcast for Montgomery and I was doing mine for Mobile. And you could probably hear both of us slurping on our slushies in between in between pitches and slurring our words, slushie in our mouth and all that. So remember that next time you watch a World Series game and you see Joe.
And
That's
you guys
awesome.
were, at least you weren't drinking from the same slushie and passing it back and forth. That would have been a little
You would
awkward.
have, yeah, 2 straws, yeah.
Too strong.
Yeah, right. That would have been cute. Like Lady and the Tramp, right? Yeah. Wayne,
right.
we appreciate you taking the time. We'll all watch the Guardians and the Twins tomorrow night on Apple TV. The game's at 8. What time does the pregame start? 7:30?
Yes, I believe so. 7:30, and then Dontrell Willis and I in the booth. D-Train's great. He has so much passion for the game. He loves baseball, and the players love Dontrell. When they see Dontrell Willis, they light up like a Christmas tree. So it's cool to work with the D-Train, and we'll be out there tomorrow night.
Yeah, I used to love
Well,
watching him pitch.
I'm a Cubs fan,
love
so
it.
I don't like Dontrell Willis.